Hey everybody, thanks for joining in. This video highlights some amazing diving that Stephanie and I did last winter. Far from the ocean's edge, Central Florida has an abundance of springs that produce millions of gallons of crystal clear water every day. Scattered throughout the hammocks and forests, the areas where these springs are located, if not on private land, are often developed into state parks. There are dozens of springs throughout Florida, and many of them are well suited to scuba diving. Born in subterranean limestone caverns, these underground rivers form a labyrinth of channels and tunnels before reaching the Earth's surface. Divers from around the world come to explore these amazing cave systems. Technical cave diving requires extensive training and certifications. For the uninitiated, however, the rule of safety is don't dive out of sight of natural light. While waiting out a week of bad weather on the Treasure Coast, we ventured inland and explored a handful of these amazing waterways. Our first stop was Ginny Springs, a private oasis that offers 3 distinct dive sites along the Santa Fe River. Pavilions and tables provide a great staging area for setting up, and wooden steps lead into the spring. Controlling your buoyancy is a critical skill here and is necessary to avoid touching the bottom and stirring up the silt. The water temp in most of the springs is 72 degrees, and we found our 3 mil wetsuits to be warm and comfortable. It was amazing to look up from a depth of 15 to 20 feet and see the outline of the trees above the surface. The basins are generally shallow. One cleft we found went about 26 feet deep. The entrances to the cave systems are well marked with signs warning the uncertified not to enter. Our next stop was Orange Grove Sink, located in West Skiles Peacock Springs State Park. Cave divers from all over the world come to explore the nearly 33,000 feet of surveyed underwater passages here. It was a cold, drizzly day when we arrived, and we had the springs to ourselves. Steph was a bit intimidated by the swampy, gator-infested location and decided not to go in the water. I quickly suited up and decided to give it a quick look. Visibility was poor, and I must admit it was a little spooky diving to the mouth of the cave entrance 70 feet below the surface. I was happy to be back above. The next day, we went to Blue Grotto Dive Resort. We were early enough to beat the crowds and spent an enjoyable dive amongst the hundreds of bluegill that live in the springs. It felt a little too commercial for us, but they do provide air here, so we were able to top off all our tanks before leaving. The highlight of the trip was undoubtedly Blue Hole Spring in Ichetucknee State Park. The springs vent a circular hole in the limestone about 15 feet in diameter, provides access to a cavern 32 feet deep. From here, divers can enter a cave system with twisting passages that measure nearly 600 feet. Blue Hole is considered a first magnitude spring and produces over 67 million gallons of water every day. A boardwalk and trail lead over a half a mile to the water's edge. It was a cold morning, less than 50 degrees out, and the woods were quiet and peaceful. The contrast to Florida's coast and beaches was very apparent, and we felt thankful to have discovered such a unique and wonderful environment. We had the place to ourselves, and once beneath the surface in the 70-degree water, we were warm and comfortable. There's a calmness and quiet that exists beneath the surface that is different than what you find on land. The slow, rhythmic breathing and weightlessness of diving is almost like a meditation. You exist in another world, one that we are not naturally adapted to, but can experience in fleeting moments that leave a deep impression. All too soon, we started running low on air and had to exit the wonder of Blue Hole Spring. Aided by the swift current, we glided to the top of the cavern and were treated to the unexpected sight of all our air bubbles leaking through the roof of the cavern and into the pool above. The springs flow into the Ichetucknee River, and we were delighted to see manatees slowly swimming in the gentle current. Our last dive of the trip was at Devil's Den Prehistoric Springs in Willingston, Florida. Devil's Den is truly unique, featuring a karst window containing a 120-foot cavern and spring-fed pool. Located on private property, the owners have created a wonderful environment, providing access to a platform built at the water's edge. We saw several families here enjoying the springs, renting snorkeling gear, and no doubt treating their kids to an experience they likely have never encountered before. The tones and conversations were muted, as though we were in a cathedral, everyone respecting the sacredness of this ancient setting. The highlights of this dive, in addition to its location, are the large number of fossils embedded in the limestone walls. We explored the edges of the cavern, taking our time and navigating several swim-throughs formed by the stack of blocks that littered the base of the cave. It was a great way to end our trip and another reminder that magic does exist in the natural world.